Hi, I'm Collin White. I am the founder of Tootles underwear, and I beat the often path because I started a business with my dad. We're co-founders together. He's a physician for over 35 years, and he and I together are working to make the world a better smelling place.
Welcome back to the Beat the Often Path podcast. I'm your host, Ross Palmer. On this show, we showcase unusual success stories to help us think outside the box of our lives and careers and to give us permission to follow that silly thing that just might lead to our breakthrough. Well, today we got a wacky one, and I know you're going to appreciate this if you know me at all. Today we're showcasing a product that literally made me laugh out loud the first time I saw it. We've got Collin White in the house, and he is the co-founder of Tootles, flatulence-suppressing underwear made from activated carbon fiber. Now, you might think that this is just a gag gift because a number of people have already discreetly given me pairs, apparently trying to drop a hint. But actually, it's based on real field medical work from both Collin and his father, Dr. Robert White. Now, they also co-created Stitches Medical, a line of science-backed garments for hospitals to suit the many awkward and unusual clothing needs of patients. For example, if you got a port, how do you access it, for all those kinds of things. It's a fascinating idea with a very real background, but it's also supremely silly. So I can't wait for you to meet Collin White, co-founder of Tootles. Welcome to the show, Collin. I'm so glad to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
I am doing very well, and I'm very excited. You know, sometimes we get a little bit more serious on the show. Sometimes we get a little bit more silly. Today is going to be, I think, a mostly silly episode with some serious undertones, which is exactly what we love.
Yep.
So to get it out of the way right at the beginning, what is the product that you have developed? You've developed many, but what is the main one, the funny one?
The funny product is Tootles underwear. So it's underwear that you would wear just like any normal underwear. With men's, we have boxer briefs. With women, we have a high waist and a low waist underwear. And what it does, different from any other underwear that you would wear, is that when you pass gas, especially when it's smelly, it filters out the smell of your flatulence. So it's a little bit different than your normal underwear.
Just a little bit. Most of them amplify the smell, or at least that's what it appears to do. I'm sure that that's not actually true. But all right, so hilarious concept, the kind of concept that many a person like myself might have thought of over a few beers and said, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? Except there's only one difference. You actually went out and did it. So how on earth did you come to the conclusion that not only this was an idea, but that you were actually going to follow through with this idea?
Right, exactly. And, so I have this business with my dad, and my dad's a physician. He was a surgeon, or he is still a surgeon, with a private practice. And basically what happened was we already started a brand where we were selling medically related type clothing for people. So we were always looking for new ideas for clothing that helps for post-surgery and all those kinds of things with, post-surgery drains. But my dad was like, listen, Collin, I've got this great idea. It's one of the complaints that I have seen over my career more than anything else amongst patients, especially after bariatric surgery, gastric bypass surgery, is that there's the typical recommendations I give to them as they're being discharged, but they always on the side go, hey, doc, what do I do about this bad gas? And he heard it so often, and the typical recommendation was you can take Gas X, you can take Beano, you can take, this medicine. But he realized that a lot of people, instead of just putting more medicine into their body, they would like a non-invasive solution to it. So he said, listen, we'll figure out the science and let's build this product. And, I think a lot of people will really want to have it. So that's kind of how we got into doing Tootles underwear.
So it began as a serious thing, which is kind of funny. It wasn't just a couple of frat boys sitting and playing beer pong. Yeah. It was actually a medically based concept. That's funny.
Exactly. Yeah, it was. And the funny thing is that as we were building it and as we were talking with all our friends and family about the business, it became the best icebreaker you can possibly imagine. I mean, even at the the nice events that you go to or a wedding you go to, and people are like, oh, what kind of what do you sell? What are your products? And I was like, well, I sell an underwear that filters out the smells of your flatulence. And it's hilarious. And as every comedian will say, even though it's got the medical backing to it, every comedian will say that farts are just simply always funny. So you kind of have to play into it.
Absolutely. And it's the kind of thing where people at a dinner party, they would say, oh, ha, 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 really funny. Great. I'll never buy that. And then 5 minutes later, secretly, hey, can I get a pair?
Yeah, exactly. And it's usually for the spouse or
right, for the spouse,
else.
Yeah. Can I get a pair for my husband, please?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good sign. It's a good sign if you get a pair as a Christmas gift, I think. You should say, oh, is it that bad, huh? Okay. So diving into the solving of this problem, where does one begin solving this problem? How did the idea, you said that there was a medical clothing company, which is called stitchesmedical.com, right?
Yep.
So where did the idea for medical clothing come about to begin with? And then how did you get the idea, or your dad get the idea, to solve this problem with an article of clothing?
Yeah, exactly. So we started, Stitches Medical about 4 years ago, and we started with a lot of post-surgery clothing. It basically my dad was, with a lot of his patients that was discharging. It was very uncomfortable them being discharged with, medical Jackson Pratt drains, and they have to wear these drains for 3 to 4 weeks. And so we were like, why don't we just create a simple shirt where you can put the drains and pockets right inside, and it just makes the whole process more comfortable. And we were doing a lot of our marketing through the medical network, through nurses. And as we were selling it, they were also saying, well, what about clothing for like post-chemo patients? So they have, or chemo patients, so that they have access to their port catheter. And so we started building products with that process in mind of how do we solve this problem for this medical procedure. And then that eventually, and so we started doing that, and that eventually landed us at, the Tootles, the flatulence filtering product. But it was very interesting because it really started with my dad, and I really wanted to be an entrepreneur in my life. I was, I went to business school. I worked in, tech, and then I worked as a commercial real estate agent in San Francisco for 5 years. And as you go through all these different industries, you're always wondering, what is it that, do I really want to be doing this the rest of my life? And I'm looking at the seniors at the company. Is that where I want to be in 30 years? And so sometimes it's kind of depressing where you're like, I really don't actually want to be like that. And
oh yeah.
And so there was always kind of that entrepreneurial craving that I had for the longest time, but it was, where do I begin? What idea do I do? And basically it didn't come until, my dad, at dinner one night, he was just like, hey, listen, why don't you try this idea? We can do this together. And now it's just kind of launched into something completely on its own. And being a business owner with him has been great. I'm kind of the one that runs the business, and he's acts more as a kind of a consultant and helping with the product development and that kind of stuff. So it's been a very unconventional journey, but I'm happy with where I am right now.
Well, that's what we're all about. That's literally the definition of the show. You will be almost episode 100 here, and that is exactly the point of this show. You summed it up. Because the fact of the matter is, people generally, in my opinion, they think they're way too small-minded about what their life could be or what an idea should be. And sometimes we need somebody to just nuke the path to remind people that there are all kinds of different ways to A, be successful monetarily and in the world, and to B, be personally fulfilled. And we've been sold a very, very narrow definition of what the path must be. And especially now that path is failing so many people. So many people followed the rules. They decided to go to school. They graduated with mountains of debt. And
Right.
they didn't get the job that they were expecting to get when they graduated. They still have debt. They didn't climb up the ladder in their job the way they expected to climb. So this thing
Yep.
has just failed tons and tons of people. So our job is to remind people, hey, there's a radically different way of living your life out here. You can do
Right.
crazy things and still build something of meaning. And maybe you have to be a little bit unusual in order to succeed. Maybe that kind of uniqueness is a strength and not a weakness. That's the premise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because you'll hop from industry to industry and you're always starting from scratch with it all. And for those who are working in their corporate careers and they're always saying, well, I just need more experience, or I need, more money, or I need something in order to start that entrepreneurial journey. It's basically, it's more like just start, because you're going to have, like, everything that you're learning now in your job is not going to apply for when you start your business. You're going to make all the mistakes in the world. We've made a lot of costly mistakes, and that's just part of the process. But you're better off getting started earlier rather than later. And there's part of me that wish I started a business earlier in my life, but again, it's kind of that conventional thinking that's out there of like, you got to go out there, you got to get experience. I even went to business school, and guess what? Being an entrepreneur and running your own business, it's like, how much do I actually apply for business school as an entrepreneur? I mean, not much. I mean, HBR case studies only go so far. So it's just pretty funny how the world thinks about, all this kind of stuff.
That's interesting that you say even a business degree didn't help much. I don't think you're allowed to say that. Don't tell your alma mater that, because
I
they'll
know, I
hate you.
probably shouldn't. They're not watching, I don't think.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. That's against their business model. That's the same with my college. They ask you to give back after you gave them $80,000 a year for 4 years. What are you giving back to exactly?
Yeah.
I don't give back to the Rolex dealer. I don't give back to the Mercedes dealership after I buy a car.
Yeah.
I think the transaction is over. They got their money. I got something. But
Totally.
yeah, so medically, people have problems. Obviously, I've had relatives myself who have gone through cancer, gone through various procedures like the ones that you described. So
Right.
if you have a port in your chest or any of these other things that you talked about, what would people traditionally do in that circumstance who didn't have the proper clothing? They just cut a hole in some clothes? How would that problem be solved without the right attire?
Exactly. That's essentially what they would do. Is there's a lot of stories about, how people would, patients would cut and sew it themselves and sew their own zipper just to be able to access the port. And so that's where, when we were hearing back from the nurses, just all the different stories about how they're yanking their sweaters down in order to access it. And it just doesn't really allow for a very comfortable experience. And essentially, a lot of times they end up wearing clothes that they wouldn't normally want to wear. And, that's already a very difficult circumstance to go through. If you're going through a chemotherapy, or if you're going through dialysis, or you're going through a big surgery. And so it's already difficult. And so then to have to wear clothing that you would normally not want to wear just to help with your situation, it takes out the dignity in the process. And so we wanted to bring nice clothing, not stuff like gowns, nice clothing that most people would want to wear. And it's just got the simple access points to be able to treat your sight. And so that's basically where, our philosophy of bringing dignity to patients. I mean, that's where it really all comes from.
Yeah. And that's such a powerful thing. Dignity in general. Such a great word, a great concept. Did people respond to it immediately? Were people immediately thrilled when you started bringing these things out? Was it tough at the beginning?
Yeah, it was tough in the beginning. But people were very, excited that there was these type of products, and especially in the medical community, you would really see it. I keep bringing up nurses. I mean, nurses are our biggest advocate because they're the ones that are with different patients all the time, every day. And so it's actually more for them because they're the ones treating the patient. They're the ones, giving them the IV drips. And so for them, they're like, this makes my life so much easier. So this is great. And patients love it too. In the sense that like I said before, it's a difficult circumstance to go through. And so if someone buys this as a product, as a gift for what they're going through, that's going to help them with their treatment, it's a very beautiful gift to give somebody, and people are always very appreciative if you do that. So.
Okay, great. So right away, you knew that you had a good proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
The response was, we like this.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And what we would do is we'd come up with the concepts ourselves, we'd build the products, and then we'd have all our samples and prototypes, and then we'd just take them right over to all the practices and the hospitals and just say, give us your feedback, what do you think? And then we'd take that feedback and then do round 2, round 3, round 4, and just kind of went like that. Because there's a lot of different little nuances to some of the products. Do you use a zipper or do you use snaps? Where do you put the snap exactly? Where do you put the zipper? Do people like Velcro? Do they not like Velcro? And it's hard because when you're getting feedback from testing a product, sometimes it's like the amount of opinions that come back. It's like, well, these are all conflicting opinions on it. So then you have to kind of
no
pick.
Zipper, only zipper.
Yeah, it's like, I hate zippers. I love snaps. And if someone's like, I love snaps. I hate zippers. So you're like, okay.
Okay, great. Making progress.
Yeah.
Note to self, some people hate everything. Got it.
Right, exactly. Yep. And
so that's 4 years ago. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, that was 4 years ago. And so, we started selling it, selling those products. And it was, when we say we started 4 years ago, we didn't really start selling until like 3 years ago because you have to build the product, you have to do the manufacturing, and the manufacturing always takes way longer than what you ever want it to be. And you get all your marketing and everything ready, and then all you're doing is just waiting for the product. So that honestly for me is one of the challenges that I never thought as going into entrepreneurship that was going to be such a huge headache, is when you're putting in purchase orders finally and then waiting for the product, and then you're working with your suppliers wherever they are in Asia, India, or Central America, and then they go, well, we're running into a problem, so it's going to be another month late. And you're like, man, you're going to put me out of business just every week that you delay this. It's killing me. And I think that's been one of the most difficult challenges. And one thing that we really try to keep a strong pulse on is all our inventory numbers and forecasting, our depletion rates and what we need to order more of, and really staying ahead of it. And it definitely takes some discipline because we get caught up with just trying to sell product. And so that back end part is very important.
Absolutely. Did you have a job when you started all of this? Did you have something on the side, or did you go all in on this project from day one?
Yeah, so I still work. When I started it, I was still working as a commercial real estate agent in the city. And then basically, once you start working on the business, you just start wanting to do the transition completely, because you just want to dedicate all your time and energy into one thing. And so so there was definitely a crossover. One thing that I have to say from now being an entrepreneur versus what I was doing before as a commercial real estate agent is that when you're an entrepreneur and you're building unique products that solve unique problems, you're the only one doing it. And maybe there's a few competitors here and there out there, but you're very unique. And that was one of the biggest challenges as a commercial real estate agent, because there's so many commercial real estate agents and you're competing with so many people, and you're like, what makes me unique compared to this next person? I guess maybe, do I know more about commercial real estate than the next person, or does the client just like me? And it's one of those sort of things where it's a little bit depressing because you're like it's in a very competitive market and it's just so commoditized, and you basically, what ends up happening is that the people that win are just the hustlers, and so you have to be working like crazy because you have to out hustle the next person. But when you build a very unique product, you still have to hustle, but it's different in a lot of ways because you can't find 20 other flatulence filtering products out there that they can compete with, or that they can buy from.
All right, so you built this company, and why not make this a product within the catalog? Because Stitches Medical, you've got a bunch of products in your catalog, various different kinds,
Right.
various different people, various different body types, procedures, all of that. Why not just add this Tootles thing as a product? When did that decision happen to make it its own spin-off, and when did you decide that you should brand it differently, think about it differently?
Yeah, exactly. So, when we were coming up with the product, we thought it was, even though it has a lot of relations to Stitches Medical, we also realized that, okay, as we market this, it has a different feel to the marketing than with Stitches. Stitches, you can't really be funny with that type of product, with the overall messaging of the brand, because if you're cracking jokes about chemotherapy, it's like that's a no-no, and yeah, exactly. Like, you just don't go down that road. And we knew that the Tootles product had a lot of opportunity. Not only does it solve medical issues that we deal with, but it has so much comedic value to it. And the only way that we can tap into the comedic value of this product is if we run it as a separate brand. So they're all under the same umbrella. So Tootles is under the Stitches Medical Incorporated umbrella. But we just decided to take it out as a separate brand. We liked the name Tootles. We thought it was kind of fun and zingy, and obviously it relates to a toot, which is the polite way of saying fart. And in fact, I try to get my boys to say toot instead of fart,
Sure.
just because it's
Why
a little
not?
less uncouth. So we liked it, and we thought Tootles could really kind of take a life on its own while we still manage the Stitches Medical business. But really, just the biggest decision was we knew that there was going to be different marketing messaging that goes out with both brands.
I can only imagine charcoal filters, other things like water, drinking water. Mm-hmm. Is there a limit? Is there a certain amount of gas that one pair of underwear can sequester? Is there a shelf life on this?
Yeah, so from what we've seen is that the fabric, it can keep passing gas and it works really well. The biggest thing which can deteriorate the quality of the activated carbon or activated charcoal, those are two synonymous terms, is that if you start washing it and you use fabric softeners and you use other types of chemicals, it can it can hinder the activated carbon. So we always suggest using like soda crystal detergent when you're washing your underwear, so that you can preserve it for the longest time. And water will have an effect on it over time. So usually it's like, from what we've seen, it's 20 to 25 washes that it lasts. People are not necessarily wearing their Tootles on a daily basis. A lot of times it's for circumstance. When they go to sleep at night, they'll throw on the pair. They're going on a first date, they'll throw on a pair. They go traveling, they'll wear a pair. But basically it's, 25 washes, I would say, and then you just have to get another pair.
Sounds good. What are some of the anecdotal pieces of evidence, or what have the responses been? Have people noticed a change? Have people been really happy with it?
Yeah, the customer reviews have been awesome. It's sometimes it's almost like TMI that you'll get at some of these customer reviews where you're like, wow, that's a little much. For instance, one guy was like, I was about to divorce my wife until she got her Tootles. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, that's, I don't know if that's something to divorce over, but okay. And we also got we've got some funny questions from people that are looking to buy the underwear. And this lady asked us one time, she's like, I like the product. I like the idea of it, but how do I, it's not for me. It's for my coworker in the cubicle next to me. Like, do you guys have any ideas on how to give it to my coworker? And so anyway, we're like, wow, that's actually a very good question. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. Maybe make it funny. Maybe say, hey, I've got some flatulence issues myself. Get it for yourself and for this person. Maybe get it for the whole office so that it's just this, no one knows it's this particular person. I don't know. But what do you actually think? How
I was going to say,
should
this
person give it to her coworker?
This is a great idea. I think you could do an anonymous gift package. So you get somebody's address and with no return label. So somebody sent you this without linking it to any person. I think that would be hilarious. And then watch them try to piece together who might have done that. They'll go to their significant. It wasn't me, I swear, I didn't do it. And then just let that process unfold. But it's kind of like the age-old, how do you tell somebody that they have bad breath discussion? Or do you hand somebody a mint proactively whenever somebody says, do you want some gum? And they say, no, I'm good. Are you sure?
Are you sure?
Take a piece just to be safe. Chew on this for a minute. So it's very similar, but it does seem like there are a lot of possibilities to make it fun and to lean into the funniness and the awkwardness of it all. It seems to me like if you've committed to it at this point, then just go all the way and figure out the funniest and most awkward way. Mm-hmm. Maybe even a box that says you smell bad, but you don't have to, or something like that. I don't know.
Exactly.
How do you break that ice? How do you just smash that ice right away?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's one of these, since I'm, doing this business, and it's, in my household, it's like, and I'm from a family of physicians. Like my dad's a surgeon, my brother's a surgeon, my sister's a horse veterinarian. And so we are our dinner table conversations, we are very comfortable talking about topics that most people would be like, oh my gosh, you can't talk about that kind of stuff while eating your food, but we're just so comfortable with it. And so in my household, it's, between my wife and I, it's if we went out to one of these nice Napa Valley restaurants and ate a lot of rich food, and we go back home, we'll both be like, hey, I think I just smelled something. I think you need to get your Tootles on. And we're very comfortable saying that with each other.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I think I better not show this episode to my wife, because then suddenly I'll be getting that gift to say, oh, I really opened a can of worms here. But then again, maybe it'll save my marriage. Maybe it'll save my marriage, and I don't even know.
Right?
Maybe my wife is on the verge of divorcing me. Maybe she's the one writing those comments.
Exactly. This
is a big mystery.
Right. And it's I hope the spouse isn't reading their spouse's comment on there, but hey, okay.
Yeah. You never know. So real quick aside, the French laundry, worth the hype or not?
To be honest, grew up in Napa Valley. I've eaten just about every single restaurant here. But the one restaurant I have not eaten at is the French Laundry. Okay, and because I'm waiting for somebody else to invite me that will fund the bill on it. So
yeah. I guess if they planned it now, it would be a year in advance.
Yeah, it's definitely for the true foodie. It's a lot of, you're going to get 15 courses, however it is. They're going to give a little bit of food on each one. And to be honest, I'm not really the one with the patience to, when you're hungry and eating a little bit. I just want my meal, and you have to basically set aside 4 hours to eat there. And I love great food. I love being here in Napa Valley. I love amazing wine. But I would not put myself in the same category as a lot of the other people in this area who are true gourmet foodies. That's another level for sure. So
Makes sense.
If you're in that top category of major foodies, I would say do it.
I am in spirit, but not so much in reality. I would love to go in theory, but I'm also not jumping on the phone to make a reservation. I've just heard. I'm a fan of Thomas Keller. I've watched his masterclass. I like using his recipes, but
Yep.
it's not something that I've went out and done. And it does bring up an interesting point that there's a lot of opportunity for brand partnerships, I think, for you, and for brand crossover. Not the French Laundry per se, but I could imagine a restaurant partnering with you and also leaning into it. Some brands that also are okay being funny, and you could say, hey, we've got a giveaway, or
Right.
some kind of collaboration with a local establishment. You never know.
Totally. And there's a few different, that's a really good idea, and something that we haven't really tapped into that yet, but that is a great idea. And because there's actually, there's obviously, we typically think of, beans and Mexican food as giving gas, but, or that it's like if you have smelly gas that you're unhealthy, which is actually the opposite of the truth. I mean, if for a lot of high fiber foods, cauliflower, broccoli, eating those kinds of diets, can really cause a lot of bad gas. And so it's not necessarily an unhealthy thing. And there's probably a lot of organic, healthy food companies that we could find some sort of partnership with it. Just say, hey, listen, you're promoting these foods. This is a nice complementary product to that.
Yeah. I think somebody will bite. I don't know who, but somebody will bite. Because there are people like you. There are people who lean into this stuff. There are people who want to be different. And it's a conversation starter. It's funny.
Yeah.
So
it is.
I don't know. I have faith. I look forward to seeing who it is. Now, maybe Taco Bell, maybe somebody else. I doubt it'll be. But it could be. It could be. You don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So what would outrageous success look like in the next 5 years? What would be the best possible outcome?
Yeah, it would be to really build up this business as much as I can, to be able to, have a strong direct-to-consumer online business, but also to be selling in CVS's and to a lot of pharmacies where they are selling anti-gas products, and to be able to get that placement would be a huge success. And then, in 5-ish years, it would be great to sell the business, hopefully get acquired, and move on to the next thing in life. But yeah, that would definitely be a big success.
That sounds good. Well, I think if anybody can do it, you can. I think you've got all the ingredients. So 5 years, we'll see what happens. 2027. That's the day. That's the magic day. Or maybe again, you'll be stuck in this business for the next 50 years of your life, and who knows how you'll feel then. And you'll say, "Oh, if only I hadn't committed to this." No.
But maybe that would be great too. Maybe it might be 5 years.
It could be excellent. Yeah, maybe it'll just be. Maybe you'll uncover some really deep.
I don't want to sell it. Even if I get a great price, maybe I don't want to sell it. You never know.
Or maybe your breakthrough leads to new ways of capturing carbon in general from the atmosphere, and lo and behold, this is the magic bullet that fights climate change somehow. Your filter technology gets put over something else.
It's so funny because we were on a radio show out of St. Louis, Missouri, a few weeks ago, and it was these big old boys, farmer boys in Missouri, and they wanted to try out our product because they didn't think it worked, and so they were testing it out, and it worked. It was a fantastic segment that we were in. But one of the things that these guys brought up, because a lot of these guys are cattle ranchers, is they were like, "This is a great way to solve global warming issues. You should make this underwear for cows, so that because everybody says that the cow farts are contributing to the ozone layer." And I was like, "Wow, that could be an interesting idea." All their methane emissions.
Interesting idea. Well,
I don't know how that
I
would
look
work,
forward to
but-
those explorations. I can't wait to see. I mean, maybe the cattle industry is huge. You never know what you could discover. Soon, all the cows in a
Never
field will
know.
be wearing what appears to be a diaper of some kind, but suddenly the world is a better place.
All the cows are now wearing diapers, Tootles diapers.
I don't think they'd mind. Yeah, I think it'd be okay. Well,
And then my brother also said,
yeah.
my brother also said, he's like, you should also do this for dogs too, because he's like, my dog rips them
yeah.
on the couch all the time. So there's maybe application outside the human race as well. We'll see.
All right. This is the frontier of science, people. This is what scientific progress looks like.
This is where it all happens.
Or smells like, or doesn't smell like. But I thank you, sir, for taking the time, Collin. It's been a real pleasure. I will leave the last word to you to close out this episode. So anything you want to promote, where do you want to direct people? You've got a couple options here, but shut us down, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And yes, you can find the Tootles products if you go to weartootles.com, like you're wearing Tootles. So weartootles.com. You can go there. You can also find us on Amazon. And we also have the other brand, Stitches Medical, stitchesmedical.com. If you know of somebody that's going through a difficult circumstance in life, there's nothing more beautiful to give than just something that helps them out with their condition. And then going back to Tootles, if it's for yourself or it's kind of like giving the tic tac to somebody else, saying, hey, can you do something about your breath, or can you do something about your gas? Tootles is a great option. So weartootles.com, stitchesmedical.com. Thank you so much, Ross. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And it makes a great stocking stuffer. And it's early, but not
Yes.
that early. So planting the seed. All right. And with that, the official podcast is over.